Hello, welcome to Jundral's podcast. I'm your host Justin. So I keep forgetting to mention this, but yeah, if we hit 500 subs, we're gonna do a commentary track for a bad superhero movie, just like we did with our 200 sub special, where we reacted to Howard the Duck. If we hit when we hit 500 subs, we're gonna react to Brie Larson's Captain Marvel, the 2015 film. So yeah, look forward to that, right? So yeah, I watched a bunch of movies over the weekend, and so I'm just gonna do quick reviews for two of them, and then for the last one we'll do more thorough review because I've been waiting to uh, watch and review this movie for like 3 years almost, right? Because I think the trailer originally came out in 2019 or something like that. So yeah, the first movie we watched was a Mel Gibson movie, Edge of Darkness, which came out in 2010. Two of these movies that we're going to review came out in 2010. It's an hour and 57 minutes, directed by Martin Campbell, who I think is the same guy who did the Green Lantern film with Ryan Reynolds, and he did like Casino Royale with Daniel Craig, right? Which this movie was a co-production between like the BBC and the States, because this is based off a BBC show, right? So the movie stars Mel Gibson, Ray Winstone, Danny Houston, right, and a bunch of like Canadian actors, because this movie is supposed to take place in Boston, but it was obviously shot in Canada because you have like Canadian actors and bit parts, including Wesker from the Paul Anderson like Resident Evil movies, right? So this movie is like a conspiracy thriller. Mel Gibson plays this Boston homicide detective called Thomas Craven, whose daughter is shot like right next to him, right, and everybody thinks his daughter, that he was the target, and that they missed and hit his daughter, which the violence in the movie is very sudden and super like graphic. Like it's brutal, the violence in the movie at some points, right? So he starts investigating and realizes that his daughter was poisoned and was who was working for this nuclear facility, and realized that hey, they were doing some shady shit at this nuclear facility, and tried to blow the whistle on it, but was killed by the corporation. There's right, and Mel Gibson's character almost blows the head off the dude, like the guy in charge, right? But because he didn't know enough at the time, he decides to let it go, right? Investigate more, right? Then he was almost killed by Ray Winston, who plays like this corporate espionage guy, right? Who quickly befriends Mel Gibson, right? And he himself is dying of cancer, right? So it's a really cool revenge flick. Though the Boston accents in the movie might bother some people. I had a hard time understanding some of the shit Mel Gibson was saying through his Boston accent. And then there's this running gag where he asks for a ginger ale, but never gets said ginger ale. So it's what is that something from the TV show or something? Yeah, but the movie was a pretty cool, a pretty cool revenge flick, and it was it was, I think this was one of Frank Grillo's early roles, because Frank Grillo is in the movie, and he plays a henchman for the corporation. It was a pretty cool movie. I would say it's a 7 out of 10, right? So next, we're reviewing the French horror comedy film Rubber, which came out in 2010. It's an hour and 25 minutes long. Directed by Quentin De Pew, or however you pronounce this guy's name. And it stars Wings Hauser, Jack Plotnick, Steven Spinella, Roxanne Mesquida, right? And that's pretty much like the famous people in this movie. So this movie is about a sentient tire that has psychic powers that goes around blowing people's heads off, right? Scanner style, which is pretty cool actually. And this movie had like a huge budget apparently, and like it bombed hard. But like the director, who can't decide whether he wants to be like a schlocky director or like a French art house director, like it. Oh my god! And he's rich. He's rich too, so it's like he probably doesn't give a shit. But yeah, that the movie rides this line between schlocky like horror comedy to like French art film, because you have this whole like the movie is very meta. You even have this like audience who watches the whole thing, all the events of the movie going on with binoculars. And apparently the binoculars can see through walls and shit. And the dialogue was very monotone, and you get like a lot of dry humor, which I actually liked. Apparently the movie was shot with everybody using French accents apparently, and then they had everybody dubbed over using their regular accents or whatever. Which I even noticed the bad dubbing in the movie, but apparently people say it's bad dubbing. So like this is a very dumb ass movie, to be honest, and it's hard to tell. Is this like if it was the movie was it supposed to be bad, or it's like, or it's some kind of joke? And you have this thing where the movie like sequel baits at the end, which I watched this movie a long time ago and rewatched it when Sleazy P Martini did his like live stream show about it, and I totally forgot the sequel baiting ending where you have like all the tires go to Hollywood, and it's like, oh, they're gonna go to Hollywood next to blow up some more heads, right? Yeah, like this movie sucks, honestly. Some people enjoy it unironically, but it's, to me, this movie, it's one of those movies where it's fun to watch with people. Oh, I also forgot, like, James Parks, or Jack Park's son, is in the movie, and he doesn't do anything. You have this great character actor in this movie, and he doesn't even have barely any lines, right? But yeah, the movie, it's one of those movies where it would be fun, like, to, like, if you have, like, film critics, like, you know, friends who think they're like film critics or whatever, or like film, like, entrepreneurs or whatever, like cinephiles, that's the term. You have friends who are cinephiles. This would be a cool movie to watch with them and to just riff on how fucking pretentious and like, bullshit the fucking film is. Which I just want to say, I have watched some French art films, right? I love Gaspar Noé movies, right? And I love like Nicholas Winding Refn's not French, but like I do like some like art directors, okay? But like this was like, what the fuck? It is so bad. It's like, fun at times, but it's like, dude, what the fuck were they thinking? So the last movie I watched, this weekend was The Sadness, which is 2021 horror disaster film, according to Google. It's an hour and 39 minutes. Directed by Canadian director Rob Jabaz. Starring... Well, the movie takes place in Taiwan. The cast is Regina Lei, Brent Zhu Shangwang, and other people you've never heard of, probably. So, this movie, I've been wanting to watch this movie for a long time, because the movie, which I didn't know that at the time, this movie was directed by a Canadian director, which makes a lot of sense, because the movie is a straight-up Asian ripoff of Garth Ennis' Crossed horror comic, which is, the Crossed horror comic is like this comic, it's like the zombie outbreak horror comic, where people get like infected with like a virus that makes them want to go out and grape and kill people in the most imaginative like ways they can think of, right? And just like in that comic book, if you get your saliva or their blood of the crossed or the infected in this movie, you become one of them, right? And yeah, the movie's about this young couple who get separated and try to find each other during this like viral outbreak where all these people turn into like homicidal maniacs who want to like rape and kill as many people as possible, right? And you have some brutal violence in the movie. Some of the violence, you know, they don't show, but there are some gory scenes in the movie. My problem with the movie is that you have this very scary premise, because it's not like, you know, well, like zombies in itself are kind of scary, but like zombies, you know, that they're just, you know, going off instinct. They just want to kill and eat you, right? Here, if you get catched by one of the guys in this movie, they're not just gonna kill and rape you. They're gonna do it as like they're sadistic fucks, and they're gonna do it like they're gonna prolong the suffering, right? Like you have one chick in the movie who gets her eye poked out and then gets skull screwed, and then she becomes one of them, right? And like lots of like violence in the movie, right? Our character loses his middle finger and ring finger off one of his hands, right? And like very early on in the movie, which you can tell he duct tapes it up, but you can tell he still has his fingers. Was that kind of bothered me, right? They should have done the thing where they taped his fingers like against like the two fingers against his palm and just tape it up, right? So it looks like, so you know, right? They should have done that, but like he taped up around all four fingers, so you can tell he still has his ring and middle finger, which fucking bothered the shit on me. But yeah, the movie is a good film, great cinematography, great music, but boy, the movie couldn't decide whether or not it wanted to be a scary horror film or if it wanted to be like a fun splatter like film, which I'm not a huge fan, like, because the movie, you can't have a movie where it's like, to me, you can't have like this scary like torture porn movie and then be like a fun splatter film at the same time, which there is like some over the top like blood fountain bullshit in the movie, right? Because to me, if you have torture porn movie and combine it with fun splatter film movie, then it makes assholes like Roger Ebert, right? Where like horror fans are sadistic fucks who get off on the pain suffering of people, the simulated pain suffering of people, especially when like nowadays you have people who fucking like, you know, you have like, you know, torture porn films online, like, you know, like cartel execution videos which, you know, fucking, I accidentally stumbled onto that shit, you know, watching live streams, and people were like, trolls send that shit to people, and they open up, and it's like, oh, it's a guy whose face is missing, and like, you have cartel people just like pouring drinks on his exposed, like, bloody skull face. It's like, fuck, man. There are people who watch that shit and get off in it. So it kind of makes, to me, when you make that kind of movie, it makes like people like, you know, like I said, like Roger, people who think like horror movies are bad and people enjoy horror movies are fucked up. When you make that kind of movie, it makes them seem right, in my opinion, right? So that I was not a huge fan of that. The movie should have decided whether or not it wanted to be a scary fucking horror film or they wanted to be like a fun splatter movie, and it rides the line, right? And by the way, me and my friend were wondering, hey, what the fuck took this movie so long to come out, right? Because you know the movie, obviously the movie deals with a pandemic, right? And we went through a pandemic 2 years ago, and I figured out why the movie took so long to fucking come out, because the movie makes a lot of points, because like you know the pandemic in the movie. A lot of people in the beginning of the movie didn't take the virus seriously, and they thought it was some kind of hoax by the medical community or some fucking bullshit, right? Or some fucking shit, right? And it's just, oh, I could see that was probably that kind of shit, which they mentioned that throughout the film. That kind of shit was probably why the movie took so fucking long to come out. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to give a rating for like Rubber. Rubber is a 4 out of 10. This, it's the thing where like I like parts of this movie, and there are other parts where like, oh, like you went fun. By the way, if you when you have a horror film do like the fun splatter shit, it doesn't make the movie scary anymore. Right, and there's some very fucking scary shit going on in this movie, right? Because you have like a guy who, you have like a scientist, spoiler alert, who did some fucked up shit and had to justify it. Well, like they were gonna, if I didn't do what they did, they would have died anyway. They would have been raped and like you know, I was trying to avoid saying that word throughout the entire review, but fuck it, they would have been raped and like you know killed. So I had to do like what I did, right? Like you know, like scary shit like that. And like there's that same doctor gets his like you know the top of his foot chopped off, and then like you have a dude grab his foot and like puke right into it. And then you also have a blood orgy where there's a scene where like this fat hentai-looking guy, hentai-loving guy, because the girl character borrows his phone, and like on his like you know screen there's like a hentai girl. He was hiding, hears like the infected fucking, they have this blood orgy, right? And he goes to get a peek, and then he gets caught, and then he gets torn apart. Well, not torn apart, like in he gets like you know brutally killed. So it's like, what the fuck, man? Like they, like that's the, like they can't, like the guy couldn't decide, hey, am I gonna have like a scary film or a fun horror film? And the movie, you know, you have this like creepy, like you know, not orchestra, but like piano like song that opened the film, and then the movie ends with like you know black metal, like like hyped high energy black metal. It's like, oh, this is fucking awesome. I can't. You can't wait for a sequel, can't you? Man, like if I was Garth Ennis, I would probably sue this guy, because people have been sued for less, right? Like when Harlan Ellison sued like James Cameron, right, for ripping off like a couple episodes of like you know of like Twilight Zone or whatever. But yeah, if I were to give the movie a rating, I would say it's a 6.5 out of 10. Could have been a great film, but they couldn't decide what the fuck. Like, you have this amazing zombie horror movie premise, and like he couldn't decide what the fuck. And I know like the core comic itself has like you know dark comedy in it. That's why I don't read the comic. And there's like you know like you have the kid characters, right? There's kid characters who get infected, and like you know it's fucked up. But like yeah, which by the way, there's characters in the film who are obviously supposed to be teenagers, and they just got like very short Asian actors for like the younger characters who are supposed to be infected, which I thought was kind of funny. Yeah, that's how you get away with not having kids like in your film, right? Where like zombies rape and kill every fucking thing. Yeah, so that's it for this review, guys. Sorry, I crammed like three movie reviews in one thing, but you know, like I'm busy, and I just wanted to like you know get everything done in one go. All right, guys, peace.